Can you tell us about its growing characteristics?
Absolutely. Thank you, Linda and Roseanne and the rest of the team. Chrysogonum virginianum, also known as green and gold, golden star and golden knee, it's a marvelous semi-evergreen perennial ground cover that enlivens just about any place that it winds up growing. It does spread by rhizomes or seed, low-growing foliage. Mats are generally 3 to 12 inches tall and spread between 12 and 18 inches wide. The flowers are very bright, about 1.5 inches. They're star-like, and they're on bright green, fuzzy stalks, hence the name green and gold. Bright green opposite ovate with round-toothed margins, and that is known as crenate. Blooms heavily in March to May in our zone area and throughout Northern Virginia. In our zone, you will see the remainder of the leaves throughout the season, really from first frost to, or I should say from last frost to first frost. In areas where there are not deer, you may well see, and it's not bright sun, you may well see the flowers periodically or throughout in especially riparian forests that are by stream beds. They're very unfussy about soils. They prefer well-drained, neutral to acidic. Unfussy about moisture, prefer moist, but will tolerate moist to dry and some boggy. So you might have them in rain gardens, but you're not going to have them in the center lower part of the rain garden. You're going to have them on the periphery. Unfussy about sun. They will tolerate just about all sun except deep shade, and full sun they will tolerate, but you need to water heavily.
I'm interested in a native plant that can thrive in a variety of habitats. Would this be a plant to consider? And if so, what are some good companion plants?
Linda, absolutely. And I mean, honestly, it's just such a lovely, diverse plant for just about any sort of native garden except full sun and rain gardens, and as a turf grass alternative in rock gardens. So, you know, truly, in my opinion, I think it would go great with anything from Virginia bluebells to, you know, to liriope. I'm going to read off a list. I'm going to give you the common names, mainly because that's easier for me to say, and I think people are more familiar with them. Helleborus, Indian pinks. Now, almost all of these are natives and will tolerate almost or heavy shade. Eastern columbine, jack in the pulpit, goat's beard, turtlehead, perennial native geraniums, woodland phlox, Solomon seal, native violets, spotty cranesbill, lady slippers, and really when we think about ferns and the native part shade tolerant grasses. So, but I can't think of many things that it wouldn't look great with. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it with catmint, but only because of the sun tolerance.
Thank you. What a encompassed list of companion plants.
Yeah, so it is considered a workhorse in the native garden, and because it is a low growing, it does not necessarily compete, but creates a symbiotic relationship with other plants and vegetation in your garden. It's non-toxic to pets and humans. I saw in multiple extension service publications that they refer to it as an herb. However, I saw no information indicating what it's useful to support, but it is completely edible. It is also a non-specific nectar source for bees and butterflies, so it is a pollinator, but there is not necessarily a specific insect, you know, bird, bee, butterfly, etc., that tend to feast on it.
Wow, who wouldn't like it?
Exactly.
So are there any pests or disease issues that I should be aware of?
You know, I'm glad you asked that. That's one of the reasons that I love this plant. I love seeing it in the riparian forest. I walk along and in the periphery of my gardens, because there are really no serious insect or disease problems. Like so many things, though, it is certainly susceptible to mildew and yummy to slugs and snails. It is classified as deer resistant, but you know, those of us who do walk in woodland areas with lots of deer, we know that that by mid-late summer, if we hit a drought and the deer are hungry, they will eat most anything that isn't thorny and sometimes even thorny. You don't need to fertilize it, although if you do want to fertilize, slow release, well-balanced fertilizer would be perfectly fine. And in terms of growing them, either by division or softwood cuttings in late spring or via seed. So they do spread by rhizomes, and that's really the easiest thing to do is, and they will not take over your garden. They're not that fast growing, but they can fill in an area within a year or two.
That's impressive. No serious insect or disease issues, and I like the fact that they're deer resistant.
Yep.
So here is Helene's references, and care to speak to any of these references that you might see that people might be interested in?
Well, so there are a couple that are sort of my go-to. So this is it's an older publication. It's from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It's set up very effectively like a reference dictionary, and you can actually get it online. It's called Native Plants for Wildlife Habitat and Conservation Landscaping, and it's specifically the Chesapeake Bay watershed. You can go online and download it, or you can actually go to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and order it. Occasionally, I see some native plant places actually sell it for a few dollars and donate the money. I also like the Lady Bird Johnson Wildlife Center Native Plant Database, Missouri Botanical Gardens, and the Nova Natives is very nice as well. They're all wonderful and give you a nice breadth of information.